And today's our guest, Rod Khleif. Welcome back, Rod. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's great to see you, my friend. Let's have some fun today.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And a little bit about Rod. Rod Khleif is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, multiple business owner, author, mentor, and community philanthropist who is passionate about business, life, success, and giving back. As one of the country's top real estate trainers, Rod has personally owned and managed over 2,000 plus properties. As a community philanthropist, Rod founded and directs the Tiny Hands Foundation, which has benefited more than 130K community children and families in need. Rod is host of the top-ranked iTunes real estate podcast, The Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. So with that, you want to add anything to your background?
No, thank you. We're actually up at 140,000 children that we've benefited with my foundation, something I'm very, very proud of. But no, and I'm proud of the fact my podcast is about to hit 17 million downloads, which is just mind-blowing. You want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans. I never planned to do I did the podcast just because I wanted to tell people my story, and then it turned into this insane, massive audience, and it's just been such a blessing. It's good to be here, my friend, and looking forward to having some conversation.
Sure, absolutely. Before jumping into actual real estate story, so let's look back and reflect on what is your journey like 4+ decades of real estate investing, podcasts, books, and also helping 140K plus communities, and also training a lot of multifamily investors, your various program, all this stuff. Tell me about that.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it, reflect back on it. When I do, I'm just kind of blown away, honestly. When I started my podcast, like I said, well, let me back up a little further. So I'm a Dutch immigrant. I immigrated from the Netherlands, wooden shoes and windmills, and immigrated when I was 6, ended up in Denver. Lived in Denver for 30 years, found out about real estate through my mom because she bought a house across the street. And a couple of years later, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep on that house. And I was like, okay, forget college. I'm getting into real estate, Mom. And luckily, my first and second year, I didn't make very much money. But my third year, I made about $100,000, which back in 1980 was a lot of money. And what happened between that first and second year, where I made $8,000 to $10,000 each year, and the third year I made 100 was I met a guy that taught me about mindset. And so, one of the reasons that my podcast has been so successful is I focus on mindset. I really believe mindset is 80 to 90% of a person's success in anything. And like we were talking about before we started recording, Rama, I think mindset is going to be super critical in what we're facing economically in this country. We're going to see some pain. And so to thrive in what's coming, it's going to be critical to stay focused in on what you want rather than let's not get started on all the crap that's on the news right now and the politics. I mean, you don't even know what to believe anymore. And so don't forget that these news organizations are not public service organizations. They are for-profit organizations, and they don't do well unless they scare the hell out of you. So keep that in mind. And, in what's coming, focus is going to be super critical. And remember this, whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative. And so kind of derailed the conversation there for a second. But when I'm reflecting, I'm incredibly proud. I started my podcast. I used to tell people I'll never sell you anything. Now I'm a liar because I sell everything. I never planned to. You want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans. But when it hit 1 million downloads, I'm like, okay, I probably should do something with this. And so I wrote a book, and it's called How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow Through Multifamily Properties. And it's a #1 bestseller, multiple categories. And I gave it away for free. I gave away 20,000 copies just to, collect email addresses and things like that. And now I still give it away for free. Pay the shipping. It's like $6-7 and you get the physical copy. But that's kind of how I started. And then I took free phone calls from my listeners and 30-minute phone calls. I didn't have anything to sell. I said, let me just see if I can help you. And I did hundreds of those. And I still meet people occasionally that said, yeah, I had one of those 30-minute calls with you. And then the podcast really took off, and everybody kept asking me for coaching and courses. And now I've got 1,200 coaching students around the country. I've been teaching 5 years. My students own upwards, and I'm not exaggerating, we're pretty sure it's over 170,000 units. We're doing a count right now. We're over 160,000 already. And, I'm very, very proud of that. So, that's been a real blessing to see so many lives transformed. Right before this interview, I interviewed one of my warriors, which is one of my coaching students who just retired from his company, and he's now doing multifamily full time. And I've got, numerous stories like that. So that's something I'm very, very proud of. Of course, I'm proud of my foundation, feeding kids and things for the holidays. So life is good. I reflect on my incredible journey with my beautiful wife. I've got a supermodel beautiful wife who's blessingly more beautiful on the inside than the outside. So what if I'm forgetting? My kids, I had a health scare with my daughter a couple of years ago. Since we've talked, she spent 8 months in Moffitt Cancer Center. She had cancer, and thank God she's in remission and she's okay. But, we all go through these dips and valleys, and I think we're headed for these valleys and mountaintops, this up and down life that we have. Life is about change. That's the only constant in life. And we have the ups and the downs. I think we're headed for a down for a lot of real estate investors, and we can talk about why I feel that way. But I also feel like there's going to be incredible opportunity, exponential opportunity. You know my story in 2008-9, I lost $50 million conservatively, and I pretty much got crushed by that wave. And I was so beat up by the thought of real estate at that time that I didn't take advantage of the incredible opportunities in 2009, 10, 11, and 12, where people made exponential returns because the deals were so good. I will tell you that's not going to happen this time. I am absolutely going to take advantage of what I feel is coming. So anyway, there's some reflections on my life since we spoke last, my friend.
Thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned like in 2008, you lost 50K,
50 million
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Conservatively, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So how exactly used psychology and mindset from that setback?
I get that asked all the time. How did you recover from losing 50 million? I'm going to tell you, people killed themselves over losing less than that proportionately in the Great Depression and in the 2008-9 crash, sadly. And, it was a lot. I mean, it was tough. I thought I was set for life. But, luckily, I've been around motivational speakers for years. I spent 20 years following Tony Robbins around the planet. I told you about someone taught me about mindset and psychology. It was a broker that I worked for. I was dating his daughter back in 1980. So I was around people that were motivating. In fact, at the time when it happened, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership, which is this big mastermind that costs, $100,000+. And I was around people that were thriving then. Okay. They were killing it in the crash. And they're like, get up, you puss, 50 million, go make something happen. And see, I'm going to tell you, who do you want to be around when what hits the fan? People like that, right? People that are going to push you. And that's why my coaching program is so extraordinary because, there's not naysayers in there. There are people praising each other and lifting each other up. And most of those 170,000 units were done between warriors. And so, I would encourage you listening, if you haven't done this business yet, get around people that have. If you have done this business and you're struggling, get around people that aren't struggling. And, because a rising tide lifts all ships. And so what did I do? Right when I pulled myself back up, the first thing I did was I realigned with my goals because I had to create a burning desire again, like Napoleon Hill talks about in his book, Think and Grow Rich. I had to want it again. And so goals are how you push through fear. And I had a lot of fear because I just lost everything. Goals are how you push through limiting beliefs. When I immigrated, when I was 6 to this country, I got thrown into school, and I got a couple of props I want to show you because they're right behind me here. Hang on one second. So I got thrown into school and I found out what bullies were for the first time. So I got my butt kicked occasionally. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she was, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in these wooden shoes and these leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest, lederhosen. So I got my butt kicked again, and then we had bullies down at the end of my street and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter. So you can imagine the next day I got my butt kicked again. And that created a limiting belief that I wasn't good enough. I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? And so that a lot of people have those limiting beliefs. And by the way, if you're consciously aware of it, pull it out into the daylight when it pops up consciously, because you'll recognize that it's, there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99.9% of them are BS, but we believe they're real. And so you got to pull them out into the daylight consciously, look at them rationally, and you recognize that they're ridiculous and they will diminish and ultimately go away. I mean, I used to be afraid to raise my hand in class, and I'm speaking in front of thousands and thousands of people a year now. I'm speaking in front of a couple thousand next week. And so because I did that, I consciously looked at it, recognized that anybody that were to reject me just didn't know me, that I've got a big heart. And if they rejected me, it's their own crap going on. It has nothing to do with me. But there's a lot of people that, I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough. That was another one on mine. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. Those are all limiting belief systems. And so first thing I did was get my goals in place and why those goals are an absolute must, so that I got hungry again. And then I made a decision. I decided I wasn't going to wallow in my pity party. I was going to go take action. What I did back then is I started a litigation support company and ultimately turned into a $10 million company with 60 employees that I sold a few years ago. But you have to make a decision. That's the next piece. You get your goals in line, you make a decision, and then you've got to take that first step. By the way, when I say decision, Like, let's say if you're listening to this sitting on the sidelines thinking you want to do this business, I don't mean dip your toe in the water. I don't mean 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Or if you're in the sidelines listening to this and you see some ugliness on the horizon, maybe you have some bridge debt that's coming due. We can talk about what I mean by that if you haven't already on the show here, and how onerous that is and how a lot of people are in trouble that did that over the last couple of years. Maybe if you're facing that, all of these things apply, okay? Because, you've got to get clear, get honed on your goals again. By the way, if you haven't done your goals recently, on my link tree, it's called rodslinks.com, rods plural, links plural.com. At the bottom is my goal setting workshop. I do it every New Year's Day. There's a guide you can download. It's professionally done here in my studio and with music and everything else. Very powerful. See, Rama, you know this. People spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. This is designing your life. So if you go to Rod's Links, I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Just go and do your goals there. It takes about an hour. Have your spouse do it. Have your kids, if they're over 10 years old, do it. Again, that's rodslinks.com. So, because it starts there. And then you, like I say, you make that decision. And when I say decision, I mean, it is done. A great analogy for a decision would be if you're going to attack the island, you burn your ships because you're taking their ships home. It is done. Okay. And then you're totally committed. And that's what success requires. And when you're going through tough times, that's what's required, total commitment. Now, if you haven't started yet, then you've got to take that first step, okay? And sometimes that can be the scariest step of your life. Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith and the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you've got to take that step. And, I know you have a lot of analytical people that listen to your podcast, as I do. And you know who you are, and I love you. And analytical people are super successful, and they have to check off every single box before they make a move. Don't do that, okay? You're never going to take action if you do that. What I want to share with you, and again, you know who you are, is you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your car only seeing 60 feet in front of you, your headlights only seeing 60 feet in front of you. And you go all the way across the United States and you'll make it. You may have some obstacles, but other people have done it before you. It's the same way with this multifamily business, but you've got to take that first step. Don't get locked in analysis paralysis. I see this with my students, my warriors, they're complaining. It's been 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. They haven't got a deal. Then they get a deal and they say, they have 3 or 4. I'm like, what the heck just happened? It's like they realize that it was all in their head. And, the thing I will tell you is to not have any regrets. There was this nurse in Australia that took care of patients when they were about to die. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And she asked him a question, Rama, and the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it, something like The 5 Regrets of Dying or something like that. And the number one regret was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life. So if you fear failure, I'm going to tell you, fear regret much more than that. And I believe exponential opportunity is coming. I really believe that. And I can give you some stats and some headlines here on my desk that I've pulled for this interview that I think are irrefutable, but you've got to get up to speed. And there's going to be opportunity in all sorts of vehicles. You could buy businesses. I've been thinking about that. The businesses, everything's going on sale. There will be businesses going on sale. There was certainly every asset class in real estate. I wouldn't touch office right now. I've got this issue of Forbes in my hand here. And in this thing, it talks about the occupancy rate for offices in the 6 biggest cities in the country. And the average occupancy is 70%. These assets don't break even unless they're at 90%, okay, or 85 minimum. And so these are all going south, and we're talking upwards of $1 trillion. And most of that commercial real estate debt's held by banks. So there's going to be some significant bank failures. I think it's inevitable unless the Fed prints money again, and then we're going to have more ramped inflation. But yeah, like Chicago, 73%, LA, 73%, San Francisco, 67%. These assets don't break even at that rate. And so everything is going on sale. And if you want to learn multifamily, can I mention my boot camp? I actually have one coming up here in September. Is that all right?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I've got a 3-day boot camp coming up in Orlando. It's the only one I do live each year. I do some virtual ones sometimes, but this is live in person, 3 days. It's not a sales pitch. It's literally 3 days of training. And I talk about my coaching for about 30 minutes. The rest of the time is full on training and, every aspect of the multifamily business, soup to nuts, everything. And if you use the code RAMA, RAMA, you should be able to recognize that. You can come for $197, okay? And again, it's kind of a no-brainer if you want to learn this business. So if it's multifamily, get to Orlando, September 15th through the 17th. Now, to get to the website, it's also on rodslinks.com. And if you're driving, Just text the word links to 72345. But remember the code Rama because the price is already double that, but $197. It also includes an incredible deal evaluator software spreadsheet one of my team members created. I mean, it's the best out there. It's better than anybody else's. And my document library. So you've got all the documents you need. So it's a hell of a deal for $197. Thank you for letting me mention that. You know, like we talked about, Rama, in what's coming, it's going to be easy to be fearful because the news is going to paint this ugly picture. Like back in 08 and 9, they said that real estate was going to be dead for 10 years. Well, multifamily rents exceeded pre-crash levels in less than 3 years of that crash. Okay. So, but they're going to paint this ugly picture. And so it's super important as you go through this, whether you're brand new or you're already in it, is to really stand guard at the door to your mind. Bring in the good stuff. Don't let the bad stuff in, minimize that. Like I try not to watch the news at all. I'll look at the headlines online. Do you agree with me, Rama?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I think here's what you want to remember is that we live in abundance, okay? And this is the most successful and wealthy, and even if you're facing some headwinds, you've got some bad debt or you're afraid of taking action, recognize something. The most successful and wealthiest people on the planet have an abundance mindset. The poorest live with a limitations mindset, okay? The people with abundance recognize there's enough for everyone on earth. And, of course, people that live in scarcity think there are limitations. And, they have a hard time with other people's success. Remember this, the only limitations you have are between your ears. People with abundance, they love other people's success and they believe in possibility and innovation. And I will tell you, very often in what's coming, people have to innovate. They have to pivot. I remember when COVID hit, and I don't remember if that was before or after I interviewed with you the last time, but I had 800 people scheduled to come to Orlando, same venue, same hotel. And I was freaking out. We'd already sold half the tickets. I'm like, what the heck are we going to do? So, I'm pretty sure on one of my websites, you can still see me on my phone recording a video that I'm going to do it virtually, and I don't think we've replaced that yet, but, I had to innovate. I had to pivot, and that's not uncommon. The only constant in life is change. Don't forget that. But just recognize that, again, we live in an abundant society, and sometimes you just have to take the time to reflect, which is why I loved your question about reflection, and appreciate and be grateful. There's no greater human emotion than gratitude, and use it. You use it to manifest what you want. You can't be angry and grateful at the same time. You can't be fearful and grateful at the same time. It's gratitude strengthens your immune system. It lowers your blood pressure, brings you closer to your spirituality. And so remember to incorporate gratitude. And I would tell you, find your passion and what you love to do, and you're going to live in abundance. God or the universe, whatever you believe, wants you to have everything you want. And I've got this sign. Actually, I think it's downstairs in my exercise room. It says, God's wealth flows through me in avalanches of abundance. Thank you, God. And those avalanches, of course, are money, but they're also friendships and love and happiness and all of that, and my health and so on and so forth.
Awesome. Thank you, Rod, for that. So let's jump into current market situation. What do you see in the current market, and how exactly you're navigating next 12 months or 18 months or 2 years?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you that I see a lot of bridge debt coming due. There's 1.6 trillion in commercial real estate debt coming due by the end of next year. 1.6 trillion, okay? Trillion's a lot of money, okay? And those people have two options. They can either sell or they can refinance, right? Well, it's been a 75% year over year decline in sales, okay? So things are not selling like they used to. That's number one. Number two is the rates have gone up, okay? I mean, bridge debt right now is at, I think, 9%, okay? And so, these people, many of them bought rate caps to prevent the rate from going up more than a certain percentage. But let me give you a statistic. In 2020, you could get $100 million rate cap for 3 years at 3%, where the rate's not going to go up more than 3% in 3 years. That was $23,000, okay? That same rate cap, when I checked just a couple of months ago, it's probably worse than this now. That same rate cap for $100 million for 1 year, forget 3 years, you're not going to get 3 years, for 1 year is $2.3 million, okay? So that's where we are right now. And so these people, if they have to refinance, first of all, their debt service is not going to be the same because their rates have already gone up, okay, a couple of percent. And by the way, when you've got a loan that's in the tens of millions, 2% rate increase is a big deal, okay? That alone kills your cash flow. But you've got to show a debt service coverage ratio to refinance. So very often these people are going to have to put money in and buy down the debt just to get the loan. And then they've got to contend with that rate cap. So I think you're going to see a lot of capital calls. You're going to see a lot of investors trying to get more money from their investors. You're going to see deals go south. I don't know if you saw that Wall Street Journal article about that huge foreclosure in Houston, with that nefarious character. It's my understanding he ran off with tens of millions of dollars and went to India. But, and of course, that's a black eye for the whole industry. I hate nefarious characters like that. I just don't think he knew what the hell he was doing, and then he just left. But the point is, I think you're going to see a lot more of that. You're going to see people lose money, and I hate it. But again, I lost 50 million, and I know you can recover from it. And, you're going to have some pain, and it's not going to be fun, but you'll recover and you'll live. So I'm not going to be too worried about other people in this regard, because I know from personal experience you can recover it. I'm just getting excited because, again, I'm in a lot of cash right now. I think there's going to be incredible opportunity to buy deals, and I have access to a lot of cash. And as I mentioned, I'm setting up an opportunity fund to take advantage of some of these distressed assets. But we're seeing more and more deals come online. I don't think it's really set in yet, but I think by the end of this year, early in the next year, I'm going to tell you, people like Elon Musk said that they're lying to you. The crash is going to be much bigger than they said. Donald Trump, love him or hate him, he says it could be as bad as the Great Depression. That's a quote, a direct quote. And I'll tell you something right now, this is like, I've got a headline here from about 3 or 4 months ago. Actually, it's longer than that now that I'm looking at it. It's about 6 months ago. More than 20 million, and this is 6 months ago, more than 20 million U.S. households are behind on their utility bills. Okay, another headline was, people are using their credit cards to pay everyday expenses. What's wrong with that picture, right? Here's a Forbes headline, expect layoffs at 51% of the U.S. companies, according to a new survey. Another one, Buffett is preparing for a big market turn down. I could go on and on. I mean, there's just a lot of onerous headlines coming out there. You don't know, I'm going to tell you, I'm much more bearish than most. I could be wrong. Maybe it's not going to be as bad as I think, but I'll tell you, they have to do something with that debt. And that debt's held with small and regional banks, a third of it. I can tell you right now, I don't have more than 250,000 in a bank account at any one bank, because I want to be covered by the FDIC at the very least if some of these banks start failing. So again, I know it's a little sobering and a little onerous, but don't look at it that way. Look at it from the opportunity, because with crisis always comes opportunity. And, I was mentioning to you, Rama, before we started that I've been at 2 industry conferences here in the last 60 days. And there's a lot of fear in these operators that did bridge debt. And I was there for one reason only, just in case any of my warriors got into trouble. And I found, about 5 or 6 people that have rescue capital, which is like the last resort, because they're going to take your equity, and stuff like that. But just if any of my warriors got in trouble, and luckily none have so far, not in a serious way. So that's a huge blessing. But anyway, I'm rambling. But that's my position. I mean, I really feel like we are in some serious headwinds. And another thing Elon Musk said, you got to give him, he's a pretty freaking smart guy, Elon Musk, love him or hate him. I love him. But, he said that if they keep raising the rates, the crash is really going to be big. And of course, Powell has just said they're continuing to raise the rates. So, but to give you some context, when I got in the business in 1978, the interest rates were 18%. Okay. I'm not kidding. 18%. And we were still able to make deals happen. The prices had to adjust to make them happen. So, and I remember doing backflips when they hit 7%, in the 80s. And so, just to give you some context, I mean, right now you're in the 7 to 9% range. If you've got conforming debt, you're probably at about 6%. And a year ago it was sub 3%. So, this is crazy times. So
awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Rod. Let's shift towards personal side. Like Tony Robbins, right? It's all about decisions and habits, right? So any personal habits that are helping you to be successful?
Sure. I do a kind of a manifestation thing every morning. I sit in my recliner over in one of my other offices here, and I just do gratitude. And I do gratitude for my amazingly beautiful wife, my kids, my coaching students, my foundation. I just do gratitude, but then I'll do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I've got vision boards right next to the recliner there, and I'll just do gratitude for things that I want if I already have them. Sometimes I get emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. And I know I lost a few of you analytical ones on that. You're like, oh, good God, get back to the real estate stuff. Well, listen, this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got it back. Okay. So ignore this at your peril is all I will tell you, because it freaking works. Okay. This is how you bring things into your life with gratitude. It's how you manifest them. It's like the law of attraction in the movie The Secret. When I saw The Secret, I was like, holy crap, that's what I've been doing for decades. I've manifested my wife, my different vehicles, the stupid crap like the Lamborghini and the Rolls and Bentley and stupid stuff like that. But my house on the beach, I lived in Denver and I knew I always wanted to live on the beach. And 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot home on the beach, which was unthinkable when I was 18, but I made it happen. And so, in fact, let me share a story about that. I probably did the last time I was on, but I think it's relevant anyway. And, I worked for that house for 20 years. And 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night and it's changing colors. Let me describe the house if you didn't hear that previous interview. So there was a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool. Big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house. Elevator, wine cellar. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So that gives you an idea of the house. So I'm floating in the pool one night, 2 months after I moved in. Again, I worked for it for 20 years. And I look up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove to the world I was good enough. I told you I got picked on in school and like we all did, stupid stuff. And I look up at this thing and I got depressed. And I don't mean a little depressed. I was really depressed. I'm like, what the hell? I had the Maserati in the garage, 2 Mercedes, the boats, the jet skis. This was a Gulf to Bay property. I owned the beach on one side. I had my boat lifts on the backside. It was a slice through an island, just magnificent. And I got depressed. I'm like, what could be going on? Well, there's several things. So this will help everybody listening. The happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat, right? You've heard that expression. Well, it's never about the goals. You need the goals to create that burning desire. So you take action and you push through fear, or maybe you're comfortable and the comfort zone's a nice warm place and we all know nothing freaking grows there, right? So you need the goals, but it's not about the goals. Happiness comes from progress and growth. And I didn't know how I was going to grow beyond that. It's like I just achieved this pinnacle of success, like times 1,000. What am I going to do next? So that was one piece. The next piece is, like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. If you achieve a big goal, you should have other goals lined up behind it. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. So that was the second piece. But the big piece was I was totally focused on me. Show the world I matter, show the world I'm good enough, rod, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's the year I met Tony. Okay. I went and saw one of his boot camps and I saw he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo, but I got home, I called my brother, I said, bro, let's feed 5 families, because I was going back to Denver to have Thanksgiving with him. And so he called his church, found 5 families that really needed help, and the third family was life-changing for me. We bought toys for the kids, frozen turkey, and big boxes of food, and this woman comes out. She's this Hispanic woman with 5 kids. She's living in, wasn't even a 1-bedroom, it was crappy 1-bedroom. And she comes out, she got 5 kids. She starts crying when she sees all the stuff on the porch. 2 of her kids start crying. I start crying and I'm hooked. Like you mentioned earlier, I'm blessed to say up to this point, we fed 140,000 children for the holidays. And I'm not bragging. There's a real message here. So stay with me. We've also done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for officers to keep in their vehicle. If they encounter a child that's been traumatized, they can comfort the child. And the reason I bring this up is it's easy to be successful. Well, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's not that hard. You just have to take action. You just have to do it. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Okay. And, we've been taught in this world to achieve, to be happy. Like we shouldn't be happy until we've reached some level of achievement. But I'm going to tell you, if you give back in any fashion, you're happily achieving. And I know it's a play on words, but it's an important one. Like I said, Tony calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. You want to learn this multifamily business, get your butt to my boot camp. I'll give you the map and the blueprint. You just have to go do it. Okay. It's a science. But fulfillment's an art. You got to figure out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's animals or the elderly or the environment. And you give back right now. And don't say, okay, well, you had money, that's why you did it. No, if you give back right now, the money will come faster. That's how God works. That's how the universe works. Whatever you give, you get. You agree with me here on this, Rama?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So give, even if it's just your time, and the success will come faster. You'll be happily achieving and you'll be fulfilled.
Yeah. Awesome. And how can listeners can connect with your art?
Yeah, thank you, buddy. I will tell you guys, go to Rod's links. There's a ton of free books. They're I mean, they are best in class books. I think I've got the best asset management book there. It's free. I've got the best book on how to hire a third party property manager there, how the questions you should ask before you get in a partnership. All these books are free. You can get my best selling book you pay the shipping and you get the physical copy of that. Those others obviously are PDFs, but $6, $7. And my boot camp site is there. Again, if you can come to Orlando, I promise you'll be glad you came. If you don't love the event after you come, I'll give you your money back. And I don't mean like it, I mean love it, okay? And like I say, use the code RAMA for $197 price for 3 days of training. It's kind of a no-brainer, okay? So it's really more about the time and, the expense of getting there. But anyway, and my podcast is there. I hope you'll check out my podcast. It's really well received. And again, that's rodslinks.com. And if you're driving, text the word links to 72345 and we'll send you that domain so you can click on it when you're safely parked or something. But yeah, a lot of free stuff there. My goal setting workshop is there. If you can't come to my September boot camp, if you can come, you don't need to do the goals because that's the first thing we do at the boot camp. Because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? So I start you there, okay? But if you can't come, then for God's sakes, go do the goal setting workshop. Have your kids do it, have your spouse do it, and set yourself up to take advantage of what's coming.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rod. Thank you for reflecting back your journey and also a little bit touching on mindset part and also current market situation, how you need to navigate and also habits that are helping you to be successful. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, my friends. Great to see you again.
Thank you.